Now, moving on, how did people entertain themselves, Don, while in the military or the army?
How'd they what?
Entertain themselves.
Well, we being that we didn't get no weekend passes.
Right.
And the closest town was about 50 miles away. It was, I think, Fayetteville, because we were in this boondock, and we did have some movies that they showed us, some movies in the PXs. They had things that we could buy, but entertaining yourself in the camp wasn't that much of a time, because you wrote letters all the time.
Right.
Because you wrote to many different girls.
Right.
Girls asked you to write to them. Family members, other buddies that had gone in, so it's pretty much, and you're pretty much sacked out. You've had it getting up at 5:30 in the morning. I say 5:30. In England, it was dark at 5:30, so you could just about see each other. We had a captain who was a Southern rebel. He claimed.
And your unit is 98% New England, you said, right?
Yeah.
These guys are all from New England.
He was a Southern rebel, an actual Southern rebel. My daddy, he didn't take nothing from them colored guys. He says, man, he rapped them. He says he wouldn't put up with that crap. You know, we had some of our top notch. Tell him to knock it off, you know. He was always drunk.
Was he?
Yeah, he was all drunk.
Because the officers were able to have whiskey, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So, what we would do, we would fall out at 5:30 in the morning. It was dark, and we wouldn't put our shoes on. We would just put our feet into. We had what they called Arctics. That's an old word from way back. They were like overshoes, like a boot, but it had buckles on them.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we would just slip our feet into those, and we'd fall out. You know, the first sergeants, everybody's here, and okay, dismissed. Because the captain would be there. Well, this one morning, the captain, he's still 3/4 crocked. He says, Sergeant, take your place at the front. All right, double time march. Now here we are, double time. You know what double time is?
Yeah.
It's running.
Right.
With these sloppy boots, we're falling all over each other, you know. So we double time for like a mile or so. We got back. That wasn't too bad, but he says, that'll teach you son of a bitches to fall out with your shoes. Whoa. He knew that we fell out without our shoes, and he was punishing us for it. He wanted to just make it miserable. So he says, okay. So those are the different things.
Now, were there entertainers over there?
Yeah, there were entertainers.
Did you see any USO shows?
Saw USO shows. I saw one. I saw Marlena Dietrich. I saw Mickey Rooney. I saw Jack. Was it Jack Benny? Jack Ben. I was fortunate to see Ingrid Bergman. She was a beautiful lady.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Saw Ingrid Bergman. Henderson. Can't forget it. I can't remember her first name. Dolores or something. We saw. This was. Yeah, this was during the war, and then afterwards we saw the Boswell sisters. So, but yeah, we did. Yeah.
Now, what did you do when on leave? When you're on leave time?
Well, on leave time, when we were in the States, we went to Fayetteville, and there was nothing to do in Fayetteville. Here's a town, I don't know, maybe the total population was 30, here's 50,000 servicemen in the town. You had the Marines near there, you had the Navy, you had another, there's 50,000 servicemen, no place to sleep.
Yeah.
We would, some people would take you into their house. We went into a church and sneaked into a church and slept for the night, you know. Not much to eat.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of just getting away. It was a movie house, but it was just, I guess, just to break the tension of getting away from the camp. We had to take a bus, and it was, you know, like an hour, 15-minute ride. You're standing up and you're groggy. And yeah.
It's probably good to get off base, though.
Yeah.
Now, were you able to do any traveling while you were in the service?
No, I traveled once. Yeah, this was the war. No, was it? Okay. Yeah, the war was over. And then that was the only time I got to go anywhere. So I was on a 6-day, 7-day pass. And but you were only allowed to go to certain designated areas.
Right.
So I'm on a train. I'm supposed to go to Nancy, France. Now the train pulls into just the outskirts of Paris, and VJ Day, Japan, surrendered. So now everybody just went, the total war is over, you know?
Right.
So I mean, celebration is just left and right all over the place. And being that I was in the supply section, also I had myself a barracks bag full of a lot of things that I could sell on the black market.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I had saved, I wasn't a big smoker, so I had saved my cigarettes, gum, candy, chocolate bars, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I says, hell, I ain't going to Nancy, France. I'm going to stay right here in Paris.
Yeah.
So I stayed in Paris. So there's one MP. They had a lot of MPs. You know what that is?
Right.
Military police, yeah. So he says, look, he says, he asked to see my passport, everything. just mind your P's and Q's, he says. Stay in uniform. Don't get sloppy so that you get picked up, you know, that you don't have your tie or something. So stay in uniform and you'll be all right, Junior. So we did. So myself and a couple other. So I make a connection with one of the French undergrounds and so forth, and they lead me through backyards and over fences and over God knows what, and I go into this apartment. Here's a little old lady. She must have been 70 years old, and she was kind of the head of this black market thing, buying all these cigarettes and stuff.
Yeah.
I had like $1,000.
Really?
Yeah, I had like $1,000. Now, the Army took over the nightclubs, and they weren't civilian run. They might have been managed by, but they were controlled by the Army. And the only way a girl could go in is if she was escorted by a GI. So of course, you had tons of beautiful young ladies out there waiting to be invited in. So, needless to say, we had young ladies who enjoyed, and we enjoyed their company for the next. I don't think I drank a drop of water for 4 days. I was half bombed and had one hell of a time.
That's great. And this was after the war was done and Japan surrendered too.
Yeah,
so
Japan surrendered.
It's a good time to party. Now, do you recall any particularly humorous or an unusual event?
Well, yeah. Well, all right. We had humorous ones. I tell you, one event. We pulled into Fort Lee, coming back, and again, as I say, the Army always, for some reason, is always 2 or 3 in the morning. So we were at the dockside and for a whole day and something. Then they finally, we disembark and we go into the reception center. Now, here's a big, beautiful reception center, and they're going to give us a meal. So, at the chow line, here's all these bronze, muscular German prisoner of war. Wow. They were really in top shape. We said, holy Christ, here we are, busting our rear over there, and these guys, they had a good... So we go through the chow line. This Delmar Russell, I never forget, big potato farmer from Maine, big husky fella, puts his mess kit out. We had prime rib. Then the guy puts a prime rib. So he says, what, you know? The German says, 9. He says, 9? He reached over. He hauled that SOB practically right over there. Dragged him right over there. The MPs, I mean, we almost had a riot.
Yeah.
He said,
Did you get a punch in?
Well, he was going to kick the shit out of this German, you know, and then the other German guys, whatever, they ran, but I mean, and we were going after them all, you know.
Yeah.
9. In fact, you'll see it in the papers I gave you, where I said.
Was he disciplined for that?
No. And what do you think our first request was when we went in? Now here's guys, we drank Buzz Bomb juice.
What's that?
You know the rockets that the Germans the buzz bombs, the Germans sent buzz bombs. They were a rocket like we shoot off down in Cape Canaveral, but not as big as that. But they were the first ones to have these buzz bombs.
Right.
And I could see them when I was on guard at night. You could see they'd go up, and then you'd see them kick in, you know, and then.
Yeah.
But the fuel was a hydrogen fuel of some kind. Had some guys that were crazy. It was like 120 proof stuff that they're drinking. We wanted milk. When we got into Fort Lee there, we wanted milk.
Jeez. 120 proof. The guys would actually drink that stuff?
Yeah.
Man. Now, were there some pranks that you and others were pulling each other?
Oh yeah, God. Well, there's some documentation in there too, but I remember we got on the Queen Mary, and this Jimmy DiMiglio, he was the battery barber, and he was always what we call worrywart, and rumors. Hear any rumors?
Yeah.
Hear any rumors? Yeah, everything lived by rumors. Yeah, I heard we're going to go to Alaska. I heard we're so we're standing on the deck of the Queen Mary, still docked in the pier there, and he says, "Oh Jesus, boy," he says, I don't know. I don't think I'll make it." He says, "I get seasick. Geez, my good buddy Dick Goody, he says, "We haven't moved yet." He says, so I says, "Jimmy, you know why you got that mattress pad?" I said, "Jimmy, they don't pull no crap. They can't afford to be screwing around with guys like you. In a sack and over you go."
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. I said, "Jim, what the hell?" Things like that, you know?
Yeah. Just messing around with them.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think of officers at Tulsa? They were a yes/no. Yeah.
They were a yes/no. Some didn't deserve the respect of a salute. Some were 90-day winners or runners, and others were just bastards.
Yeah.
And the ones that were, it just seemed like the little ones that maybe 5'2" or something, being that they weren't impressive with their bodies, with their mouth, you know.
So they spoke their rank.
Yeah.
Demanded respect.
Yeah. And then, but as I go back when you said this Dr. John Quinn, who was the Quinto head doctor there after the war, when I was saying about the venereal diseases, he says there was a few cases of, fraternizing. He didn't pull no pensions. Look, I don't want to hear no crap from you guys. If you have to, he says, just put it under the window and slam it. If you have to that's the way he talked,
Yeah.
So, things like that. But the officers, they were generally capable, but more on the higher ranking side. Like our first captain was just but some of the other ones, they were out to do that.
Yeah. Now, did you keep a personal diary?
No.
No. Now, do you recall the day your service ended?
The day I left service?
Correct.
Yeah. I was discharged in New Jersey. Jesus, I can't think of the name. But I remember that what struck me is I went to the counter to get a hamburger, and of course there was hundreds of guys all around and so forth, and I was patient enough, and I was trying to get some attention from the waitress behind the counter, and she was taking care of this guy, that guy, and I'm patient with her. Finally I said, "Miss, could I please have some service?" And she says, "What do you want?"
This was right after the day you were discharged? Or?
Well, just got discharged that day, going to leave the camp.
Yeah. So this was still on the camp, in other words?
Yeah, on the camp.
This is all military in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, "What the hell are you talking about, what I want?" I said, "I've been standing here for 20 minutes. I don't give me that crap." Yeah. And I thought to myself, is this what I'm coming home to?
Yeah.
And it just hit me,
Now, was she a civilian just working there? Or
Yeah.
Was she, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, you said you were in New Jersey. Do you remember where? Or? It doesn't really.
Yeah.
No big deal.
It might have been Fort Lee or yeah.
Anyways, what did you do in the days and the weeks afterward, after you were discharged?
Well, the first day I had a dog who was he was my pet, and he was quite old. He was about 13 or 14
Wow.
years, yeah, 12, 13 years. He still recognized, he had like arthritis, and I remember he came crawling up to me.
He was happy, tail wagging.
Yeah, but he didn't have that, and he lived to be about 5 or 6 weeks more than he died.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like he waited for me. Yeah.
Did he stay loyal to you the weeks you were home before you?
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And then naturally, a lot of people, relatives coming over to the house and kind of celebrating.
This is back in Hartford.
Yeah.
Franklin Street area.
I was on Elliott Street.
Elliott Street.
Yeah.
Now, did you go back to work or did you go to school at all?
I went and I took. I applied for schooling as an automobile mechanic. I went to work in the garage and learning mechanics, and then I worked there about a year, and then in the front was a gas station and a parking lot, and the fellow had to get, it was a small one, and he asked me would I like to run it and take it over. So I said, yeah. So my brother would come home, and so I had this little gas station plus a little parking lot in the back, and he gave me a chance to pay it off by over a long term, and so I became a gas station owner for a couple of years.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And your brother went in?
Yeah, he was with me about 2 years, and then I went to work. I should have followed higher education, but you know, when you're one of 10 children and you've been indoctrinated into working, because I worked all my life. I sold. I was a milkman's helper, running a milk route when I was like 9, 10 years old. I mean, running.
Yeah.
You ran with a full basket of glass milk bottles.
Right.
Ran like hell. Went from like 3 in the morning to like 7:30, and went to school. Then I went to work in tobacco.
Oh yeah.
Oh, brutal.
So how long did you own the gas station for?
About 2 years.
And then they sold it?
I gave it back to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I really wasn't making. We were just about meeting expenses, and it had an outdoor lift, and other stations came around, and
The competition?
yeah, I just didn't have that kind of money and help it. So.
Yeah. Now, did you make any close friendships while you were in the service?
Oh, yeah.
Naturally, with all the reunions.
Yeah, I mean, the camaraderie was just, you were closer than brothers. Yeah.
And did you join a veterans organization?
PFW.
And you were able to continue those relationships for till this day with your friends back then.
Yeah.
Now, what did you do for a career after the war? You said you had the gas station for a little while.
I worked in a couple of factories as admin, a timekeeper, bookkeeper, that type of work, and I got laid off. The East-West Highway came in. Now, one factory that I was working with was shut down because of the East-West Highway. Another factory that I went, Billings and Spencer, which was in business for 100 years, they went out of business because of the East-West Highway. Then I worked for Cushman Chuck. I went for workman's compensation, and I could collect $55 a week. But they said, one of the interviewers said, would you like a job working in the labor department for the state of Connecticut, the temporary position for 6 months for $50 a week?
Yeah.
No, $5 was a lot of money in those days.
Yeah.
Extra, you know. But I says, no, I'd rather go to work.
Yeah.
Well, I got into the state and I worked in the labor department doing the accounts for those that submitted for to get compensation from the state. So I was there about a month or two, and Mrs. Stefan, the supervisor, she said I'd like to put you on, she said, if you don't mind, on doing the accounts for railroad workers. Now, that involved more deeper accountability and arithmetical stuff, because they got funds from different states, being that the railroads so far. So put me in a higher part, but they didn't give me no money. But now I'm there for about 4 or 5 months, and I was now looking for any state position that would come up that I could qualify for, because in those days, and I think it still holds true today, you couldn't take a test unless you had the prerequisites.
Right.
And they wouldn't allow you to take the test unless you had that. So I was taking whatever test I could take to. So I took a test for a clerk 3. They had different classifications: clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3. Clerk 3, there was 323 people took the test, and I came out 23rd. So you had to put in where you'd be willing to, what state office you went to work for. So I put in for a number of them, not just Hartford.
Yeah.
I put in Middletown, New Britain. So I hadn't heard anything for a while. I forget what I was doing. I think I was working, but so I went to see the personnel head supervisor of the labor department.
Uh-huh.
So got a little ballsy. So I says, Mrs. forget her name. I says, I'm on the list, I said, of clerk 3 and so forth. I said, I came in 23rd, I says, and I put down such and such a town. I said, I want to go to work for the state. Let me see.
You went right up to the person that would hire you, pretty much?
Yeah, well, just about. That was right.
Higher up in the chain?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was the personnel director for the whole labor department. So she says, purchasing division has just moved to Middletown. Would you go to? Absolutely. I said, I'd move to Middletown. I said, I'd go to work. I said, that's even better than coming into Harvard. I says, go against the traffic, you know. So she gives me an introduction thing. I go down there, and this Mr. Finnegan looks at it, and he said, Mr. Rizzo, he says, this job only pays $67 a week, he says. And I see you're a married man with 2 children. I says, trust me, Mr. Finnegan, you'll never regret. I said, I can live on it.
Yeah.
I said, I got other side jobs. I said, where I live, I said, I do the janitor work. I said, so my rent is paid, so forth. I said, I work on set. I said, okay, hired me.
Yeah.
from that point on, I just went right up.
So you stayed with the state until you retired? Within the labor department?
No, purchasing.
Purchasing.
Which was a high classification. I ran a small offset printing press because I had some experience in running. I took printing in school and so forth. And I would, whereas the women would mimeograph, and they used to cut a stencil. That'd be after your time. Or do you remember that?
Stencils?
A stencil.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a typewriter.
Right.
You cut a stencil on a typewriter and then you put it on this drum that had ink on it.
And it would just press.
Yeah. It was a messy thing.
This was through the state, or this was a side thing?
No, for the state.
Yeah.
I cleaned those, and then I ran a little offset press because Xerox came in at that time. And I could make a proof from the Xerox, put that or whatever, on it. So meanwhile, I'd rush like hell. I'd go down to the inspection section.
Yeah.
And it was a very friendly and very open thing. I said, and we played cards in the afternoon, and the supervisor played it. So I said, John, I said, do you mind if is there anything I can help you with and so forth?
Yeah.
So that, I took the I stayed about 2 years, took the inspector's test.
Yeah.
That was a big jump. There was only 2 state inspectors at the time.
What were you inspecting?
The whole state.
Really? All the rules and regs and all that?
We walked into an institution. I could walk into Central College and demand to see your books or something.
Really?
When I say books, not so much
financial data and
well, not but
records.
Your warehouse.
Yeah.
Your janitorial services, anything like that, or let's say that one of your girls wasn't satisfied with the stencil that was working on there.
So you would inspect and say you would find out what's going on?
Yeah, oh sure. Yeah. Sure.
Now, how long were you the inspector for the rest of your career?
No, I became a purchasing officer. Then one fellow left, and they needed someone temporarily. He left like that, and I guess they saw whatever potential I had for them. They asked if I would fill in. I jumped right in. I worked about 6 months as a temporary. Then they put the test out. I took the test. I became a purchasing officer.
How long were you a purchasing officer for?
15 years, 20 years.
And that's what you retired from? Wow.
It's a good
career.
Well, the benefits and everything.
Yeah. What year did you retire in?
86.
86.
And I wouldn't have retired at that time. I would have stayed another 2 years, or a year and a half at least. I was 63 and a half. But my secretary was my boss's wife. Think about that.
Okay, yeah.
My secretary was my boss's wife.
Right.
And they were both divorcees, and they were he'd come in the morning and hi Joyce. I said, all right, Joyce, I gotta go and see Ted. I gotta get approved. But he was chief. When I come back, she said, "Did he say anything to you?" Of course, I went in to him. He said, "Did she say anything to you?" And of course, she did, but I couldn't say.
So you were the middleman.
I was the middleman. And then she was one of these who took advantage of it.
Yeah.
You had a coffee break, she'd take 25 minutes instead of 15. Or if she wanted to leave early.
It sticks because you can't yell at her because it's your boss's wife.
Yeah. So I stuck with it. And then she was always having problems with her 2 children. They were like made in heaven. I mean, I just couldn't stomach it anymore.
So you retired.
I was 63 and a half. I should have waited another month and a half, but yeah.
Well, onward here. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
Oh, what do I think of the war itself?
No, your military experience. So the experiences you picked up, and you're thinking about war. You know, in the military. How did the experiences?
Well, there's no question in my mind that military action is the only thing that speaks when there's situations that cannot be resolved amiable. It's just that harder a way to fathom. But yes, military. But then on the other hand, I still feel that we cannot rule or be militarily involved in so many different areas of the world, because in order to, we've weakened ourselves, and we have to stay strong, and we just can't. Just can't.
And you said you're part of the VFW. What kind of activities does your post or associations have?
Oh, annual Christmas party for the kids. The special the honor guards for bereaved members, and of course different family functions as the like say on Veterans Day the post would be open for a meal or different specific occasions militarily that they made a very compatible association.
Right. Now, you said you've helped create, well, not fun, but the reunions. You had quite a few of them that you organized. How many did you attend? Reunions. Quite a few, right?
All of them.
Yeah. How many were there in total?
Well, they were biannual reunions, so from 63 to what, 2 years ago? How many years is that? Divided by 2? Say 63 to 203 is 40. And divided by 2 would be 20 plus 4, we had about 25.
Wow. Now, how did your service and your experiences affect your life?
Well, it has enriched my life 100-fold, because First of all, the American flag, believe me, when you see the American flag and what it flies for and what it stands for and the sacrifice and how fortunate I am to be here in the United States and in a country and what we stand for, and then of course the camaraderie I have made, such in-depth camaraderie with all that they've become like second family. So it's been a whole enhancement of I was going to say spiritual, but not spiritual, but mutual. And when I say spiritual, we never got into the personal. Someone would say to me, gee, I don't know if when you walked into the reunion, you were a 486er.
Yeah.
You wasn't a private, a captain, didn't matter what your rank. Didn't matter whether you were Catholic, Protestant, Jewish. Didn't matter whether you were a stockbroker or a farmer. You were a 486er. And that's the whole meaning.
That's great. Now, is there anything else you'd like to add in the interview that we haven't covered?
No, it's I suppose if I could, I would come up with something funny or something, because that's well, we had this fellow who was a confirmed bachelor.
Yeah.
John Stevens was his name, and he was the battalion comedian. And somehow he was always getting into some kind of trouble for whatever. And I could hear the sergeants. Sergeant was about 6'6". We called him the Greyhound.
Yeah.
He was long and lean. And this Stevens would get into some kind of a mess. I give you one example. We're on maneuvers. We hadn't got our mail for a couple, 3 weeks. So, gee, when mail call came, here's the first sergeant standing open, and gee, and here's John Stevens right next to him. So, first sergeant says, "Oh, gee, am I glad to see this picture." He says, "What do you see?" And he had gotten married when maybe a couple months before he went in the military. A picture of his wife and maybe somebody, but a picture of his wife. So he showed John Stevens, said, "Gee, good picture." John Stevens said, "Is that your mother?" This first sergeant, he had a way. He stood up and he went, Stevens, you get your ass on KP now." Oh,
he was pretty offended, huh?
Oh, God.
Was he speaking the truth, or was he just kind of
No, just.
Yeah.
We had inspection every Saturday morning. The barracks had to be spotless. The beds had to be tight, you know.
Yeah.
You bounce them on. So we'd all be watching where they would be coming from. Sometime they wouldn't come from barracks 1 or 6. Sometimes they'd hit 3 first or something. And we'd all be by our, you know, and someone would say, well, they're over at 2. Okay. Yeah, well, they're over 3. Well, apparently for some reason, he lost. Whoever was watching out didn't pick up where they went. Now they usually came in the front door, but this time they decided to come in the back. Now, John Stevens was way in the back, and he's pantomiming the first sergeant.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And there's the first sergeant standing behind him.
What did the sergeant say?
He had a, I'll be dipped in shit. KP Stevens forever. Oh,
You guys try not to laugh?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and we couldn't warn him, you know.
Yeah.
We couldn't say, yeah. And the first sergeant stayed for a while to watch, you know. I did see the captain's face when he came down. He had a little smile on it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, I think we've covered a lot over the interview. I think it's a good place to end on as far as that goes. And I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Happy to do it.
Thank you for your service for your country. I truly appreciate it. And I'm sure people that will watch this will as well. And I want to thank you, Mr. Rizzo.
Yes, you're welcome, John.